In today's video, I'm going to explain what AWS Cloud is and give you a full AWS tutorial for beginners. We'll look at the AWS Basics, the AWS Concepts, and AWS Services. Let's start by understanding what AWS Cloud actually is. Amazon Web Services, commonly known as AWS, is a cloud services platform provided by Amazon. It offers a broad set of on-demand computing services like computing power, storage, databases, networking, and more. These services are available on an as-needed basis, and customers only pay for what they use, a model that's often referred to as the pay-as-you-go model. Now let's take a look at the AWS Basics. So what is cloud computing? Think of cloud computing like electricity. With electricity, you don't need to understand the details of how electricity gets to your home or where it comes from. You just plug it into the electrical outlet and use it. The same concept applies to cloud computing. Instead of storing your files on your computer or running an application from your personal device, you're using the internet to access these files and applications that are stored on servers in data centers somewhere in the world. This is what we refer to as the cloud. So what are some of the benefits of cloud computing? Firstly, we have speed and agility. Businesses can get their applications up and running faster in the cloud. Scalability and flexibility. Businesses can easily scale up or down their cloud capacity as per their business needs. It's cost efficiency. There's no upfront cost and you only pay for what you use. Accessibility. You can access your data, services, applications from anywhere with just an internet connection. And finally, we have innovation. With cloud computing, businesses can innovate at a faster pace and test out new ideas at a low cost, for example, experimenting with AI and ML. AWS is the world's leading cloud computing platform provided by Amazon that includes a mixture of infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and packaged software as a service offerings. AWS Global Infrastructure is deployed across the world, split into regions like North America, South America, Europe, Asia Pacific, and Africa. Each region is a separate geographic area and is completely independent. Let's talk and understand the difference between an AWS region and an availability zone, because these are both fundamental AWS concepts that you need to understand. Now, I want you to imagine that you're planning to build a chain of grocery stores. Think of AWS regions as physical locations around the world. Each city where you decide to open a grocery store is like a region in AWS. Each region is a separate geographic area, and Amazon has these regions all over the world. Just as you would choose to open stores in cities that are close to your customers, you would choose an AWS region that's close to your users to reduce the time it takes to deliver your service to them. This is known as reducing latency. Now, each region is split into multiple availability zones across the city, which are essentially separate data centers in a region providing redundant power, networking, and cooling to ensure that AWS services remain uninterrupted. Back to our grocery stores, you don't just open one store, you open several stores across the city. These individual stores in a city are like the availability zones in an AWS region. Each availability zone is like a separate store, to be more accurate, a data center in a city, also known as a region. Now, having multiple stores in a city helps you in two ways. If one store has to close for any reason, like a power failure or any technical issues, your customers can still shop at your other stores. In the same way, if one availability zone has a problem, your application can continue to work in the other availability zones. These availability zones in the regions across the AWS Global Infrastructure power some of the biggest applications and companies in the world. So in summary, regions are like different cities where you have your grocery stores, and availability zones are like the individual stores in each city. Together, they help make sure your AWS services are always available and performing well for your users, no matter where they are in the world. Next up, we have the pay-as-you-go model. Now, the pay-as-you-go model is a cost model for cloud services that includes both subscription-based and consumption-based models. With AWS, you only pay for the individual services you need, without needing long-term contracts or complex licensing. This model has benefits such as flexibility, cost-effectiveness, and the capacity to scale up or down without upfront costs or termination fees. Now we'll take a look at some of the major AWS services categories. Now, one of the most popular compute services is EC2, which stands for Elastic Compute. Think of EC2 like a computer, but instead of being on your desk, it's running in the cloud. You can use EC2 to launch as many virtual servers as you need, configure security, networking, and manage storage. It's like having a powerful, scalable computer at your fingertips, and you only pay for what you use. There are additional container orchestration services like ECS and EKS, which we'll cover in a future video. Next up, we have AWS Lambda, which is a serverless service. Imagine you've written a piece of code that you want to run, but you don't want to bother with setting up servers. You just upload your code and Lambda runs it for you. You don't have to worry about managing servers, and you only pay for when your code is running. Moving on to storage, we have S3. Now, Amazon S3 is an object storage service, which is ideal for storing any kind of data like images, videos, and backups. S3 is highly scalable, reliable, and secure. It's designed so that you can store and retrieve an unlimited amount of storage. Next up, we have databases. Amazon RDS is for applications that need a relational database, which is a type of database that organizes data into tables. It supports various database engines such as MySQL, Postgres, MariaDB, Oracle, and SQL Server, as well as Amazon's own high-performance database engine, Amazon Aurora. Now, DynamoDB is a NoSQL database service which is fast and scalable. A database great for storing key value data, document data models such as JSON, HTML, and XML. DynamoDB is fully managed service like Lambda, so you don't have to worry about the infrastructure behind it. Amazon VPC lets you provision a logical isolated section of AWS Cloud where you can launch AWS resources in a network that you define. You have complete control over your virtual networking environment, including the selection of your own IP address range, creation of subnets, and configuration of route tables and network gateways. This is the AWS Management Console, so when you log in, this is what you see. Here is where you can navigate to the different AWS services that you want to be using. You can also filter on this services tab and go through the different categories. For example, you can go to containers and go to Elastic Container Registry, and then you can start building a repository that holds your ECR containers. Not sure why this is there. So for example, you can go here, we can delete it, and it will delete your container. But as a cloud architect or a cloud engineer, we really don't want to be using the console. We only use the console just for validation and checks. Everything else needs to be handled via code, whether that is Terraform, whether that is CDK, whether that is CloudFormation. Now, that was a quick overview of AWS for beginners. Let me know in the comment section below which topic you want me to cover next. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.